And Real Madrid, I mean, geez, it's the pinnacle.
Is it?
I think so. I think if you say to any footballer in the world, one club, everyone generally regards Real Madrid as the biggest club in the world.
Do you think it's the biggest club in the world?
I think so.
You don't think Man United is?
Well, you might hit me with a stat on that they earn,
No, I'm not going to. I'm asking you. I'm not influencing your opinion, but from your point of view, given the fact you played for Liverpool, given the fact you played for Real Madrid, and you've played for Man United, the treachery of that. When you step up in your mind's eye as a professional footballer, you think Real Madrid is the pinnacle.
I think so.
Yeah.
I thought so at the time. I probably think so now. I mean, if you go on European Cups, then they are by miles, aren't they?
Yeah.
We all know how successful Real Madrid have been. 14 Champions Leagues. Their record is remarkable. They're, I think, probably one of the. I think in the world's big three football clubs, it's probably Real Madrid, Barcelona, and Manchester United in terms of stature.
When you go to Real Madrid, you enter in Real Madrid, and you understand that you are working for the most important club in the world. This is the pressure. You know that you have to win. To participate, no.
Yeah.
This is very important. And in every part where you are working, you have to understand the style of the life, what these people.
Madrid, Spain, the home of Real Madrid, the biggest team in the world.
Yeah, well,
I think so, mate. Tell me who else is the biggest?
That's all the Chelsea fans going.
Come on, they've won way more than we have. Come on, there's no comparison. If you are somebody who's honest and truthful, they are the biggest in the world.
They are, yeah. Let's just put out there, they are.
Relationship with the European Cup, the Champions League, because, of course, they'd won it so many times. So there was always this talk of the history of the club. I mean, people went back to that era of Di Stefano and Puskas and Hento and things like that. Pictures on the wall, Di Stefano walking around the building. You were hit with the fact of you have to win the trophy this year. Once you set foot in the Bernabeu on a Champions League night, it's an incredibly special place.
It's more about the mentality. So that's absolutely. The Madrid has all my respect. Absolutely, it's a fantastic team. For the generation that is, the players on the pitch 5, 6, 7 times Champions League winners is absolutely crazy, and still running, still going. So Luka Modric keeps playing probably until he's 45 or something like that. Toni Kroos is only past the 30 now or something like that. So incredible players. Karim Benzema looks like he can play 3, 4 other seasons. All these kind of things, and bring in young players. Wow, Germany and all the boys. So it's a good team, and obviously a pretty good club. So yeah.
A draw here is
disaster.
You are really close to the crisis if you draw one game. A draw. But the expectation is really high.
Well, I played many times against them as a football player, as a manager. It's always an incredible admiration for the history for this club, and I know how difficult it is for the quality. I think the players, played. I don't know how many finals the Champions League. I don't know how many times lifted
goals. Sometimes you just have to say the quality of the forward lines and the amount of people that get pushed forward for either team. Sometimes it just guarantee goals. If Atletico Madrid are here, you're thinking it could be 0-0 or 1-0. As soon as Real Madrid turns up, we expected goals tonight. We expected chances for either end.
I think yesterday 11 semi-finals in 30 years, so Chapó, heads off. We are 3 and looks like, wow, what we have done is incredible. We've reached Champions League semi-final. And I think all the clubs around the world had the feeling that if you want to win this competition, you have to beat Real Madrid right now.
I think a great thing about this Real Madrid team as well is they have a number of players who can take the ball and take the sting out of the game. Modric for one, Benzema another, Vinicius, Rodrigo now starting to do it. Those players, they give you that little bit of time and composure.
Young kids doing it. Camavinga's doing it. Like, he's 20 years old, but he's receiving the ball in tight areas like a really mature, experienced player with all the pressure.
Went 2-0 down and then being able to manage that as well in this cauldron. It was the size of that job the task they had ahead of them at that period when they went 2-0 down, the experience to manage the game and to get back in. I think I agree with Stevie, they scored a good time, scored quick, but the class in those players, the experienced players and the younger players, the blend that they have on that pitch. I never had them down as being a team that capable to repeat and win again, but now after that you have to put them in there.
Sometimes in football you got to hold your hand up and say the best team won, you're outclassed, you were dominated, they were better. In most areas of the pitch, you'd have to say. They got off to a slow start, but their experience, the reaction was absolutely top class. And we're witnessing here absolute greatness in Modric and Benzema. You know, you're talking about players that are operating on a different level than most.
The victory is a relief. You are satisfied. You are not happy. Because the pressure is so high. With experience, I am able to manage the pressure really well. I'm quite comfortable. But the victory is a relief.
Wow, especially at this club, the pressure of
the expectation here is really like
for him. We all know Real Madrid is a proper football club. I'm biased towards Barcelona. We don't love Real Madrid in Barcelona, put it mildly. But they are a sensational football club, an incredibly successful football club. Play brilliant football, and you look at the players that they've got there, and some of the youngsters that will come through alongside Jude Bellingham, who's a real leader. I think it's going to be really interesting to follow.
They won so much in the last years that nothing can really excite them in a negative way. So that's something which is absolutely to admire. But apart from that,
up to Bale. In between that, you had Steve McManaman, you had Michael Owen, you had other players that went there that came from big English football clubs and went to Real Madrid. I guess you're right. If Real Madrid come knocking, the football mentality is this is the place to be.
I think so. Not every day of the week they come in for you. And you know, when I left Liverpool to go to Real Madrid, I mean, I didn't want to leave Liverpool. I love Liverpool, but Real Madrid, I mean, it was just something that you think to yourself, if I say no, if I don't go, then it might be something I'll regret for the rest of my career.
One thing I will say, having watched Real Madrid and having a relationship with Carlo Ancelotti, who's been incredible in his time here, and that the players have to understand is that this is a special arena and a special football club, and anything can happen, and some things you can't control. So we have to control what we can control with what we have now, understand the quality of the player in the Real Madrid team, lots of quality throughout their team.
There's one thing that you have to give them a lot of credit for is the ability that they have to make sure that they build the team with keeping some of the old guards with them to make sure that they can explain to the guys coming, the young guys coming, what Real Madrid is. And if you look at it, now they're going to have, if Mbappe goes there, they're going to have a team that can be dominating Europe or dominating their league for maybe 6 to 7 years, because they will be all young. Vinicius Jr., if Mbappe goes there, Rodrigo, Valverde, Tchouameni, I'm not going to name the whole squad. But one thing that they do ever so well is they know when to get rid of players. I'm not talking about the players that are logical to get rid of. I'm talking about it was time for Ronaldo. It was time for Casemiro. It was time for Ozil. Time for Varane, which was more, I think, more of a knee issue, if I understand well. But if you think about those three, Modric, Kroos, and Casemiro, they sold the youngest one. You would like to think, why would you sell the youngest one? Well, because they notify that those two can help the Valverde, the Tchouameni, the Camavinga. They do that ever so well, and you have to give them credit, because when you get rid of the players that I mentioned before, they were outstanding players at that time for your teams.
And the way they approach games, the way they approach training, the way they approach everything is just chalk and cheese.
Without naming names, which you don't want to.
If you play in a five-a-side game, if you go to Real Madrid, playing a five-a-side game, and you get beat, I mean, it's world war in the dressing room after. There's people fighting, there's cuts and bruises, and the manager has to stop it after 10 minutes instead of having a 20-minute game. No, stop it. We can't get any. It's like, it's crazy. And then
when you look at the players, and I think we're going to look at sort of Kroos and Modric as well. Now look at some of those clips Thierry just mentioned, the fact that they're staying at the club and they've still got a huge role to play. I mean, Modric, he's going to go down as one of the greats. Kroos will not be too far behind him as well. These are legendary figures in this competition as well. How many times they've won the Champions League. What Thierry's mentioned there about getting rid of players at the right time. I don't think there's anybody better than Real Madrid in world football. But it's a great skill for any football club to basically get rid of players before the legs go. Basically let them retire on somebody else's pitch. And when I look at what they've done to Manchester United in the last couple of years, in terms of Casemiro and Varane, you look at them as players for Man United and think they need replacing. You didn't think of that when they were actually in a Real Madrid shirt playing for Real Madrid. So that's a great skill.
It is one of the biggest challenges to perform as a away team in Bernabeu. It is even more difficult if you have to earn a certain result, if you need to win with a minimum of 2 goals or better even, or maybe even a 3 goal difference. That makes it almost impossible and very, very difficult, but it's worth trying, and it's still a stage where you can also overperform.
We have to show a little bit of respect to Real Madrid. I think they've won it, 13 times in the past. They've got great manager in Ancelotti, been there, done it. Benzema in the form of his life, Vinicius as well. So don't discount Real Madrid just yet.
I bet they don't win it.
To start the game, the thing is with Real Madrid, when you have experienced players, when you got David Alaba and Kroos and Modric and Benzema, they can hang in there, and they hung in there. I don't know how they hung in there to come away with a 4-3, but they did. I thought.
Then it's a case of, where does everybody seemingly want to end up? They seemingly want to end up at Real Madrid. And, I can understand it to some extent. I can understand it. I lived in Spain for years. I know what the value of Real Madrid is as a football club. Maybe I'm just biased. I still think that the English clubs, to me, offer just as much of an appeal. But you cannot argue that the Champions League, on statistics, which are the beginning of the argument, not always the end of it, but on statistics and this fact, Madrid win the Champions League more than anybody else, it would appear.
Well, that's it. And I must admit, I think they are different. My own view is Real Madrid. Anybody else maybe yet, but Real Madrid, and that old phrase, when so-and-so came calling, there was only one decision to make, that's Real Madrid.